What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Draft Geeks podcast. We got another Stock Up episode for you guys a little bit halfway through college football. So we're going to be bringing you positional Stock Up. So we're going to talk about two positions, one by me, one by Max, and then we'll talk about guys that have stock up or stock down within there. We're going to get into our top 10s in college football, and then we're going to talk about some coaching carousel fun, who should get hired at some of the biggest jobs, and maybe potentially someone that might get fired in the upcoming week. So hopefully you guys are ready because the Draft Geeks podcast starts right now.
Welcome back to another episode of the Draft Geeks podcast. Everybody, I'm Max Showstack over at the Draft Geek, here alongside Jace Campbell, who is over at Pat's Drive. Let's make sure you're subscribed before we go any further here. Follow both of us on IG. As Jace mentioned, we've got a fun one for you guys today, diving in deep into two positions, who's up, who's down at those spots, some college football fun. Jace, how are you doing, man?
Yeah, man, I'm super excited. It's been a great college football year. I know we've talked about some stock up guys already, but this will be a fun one to get into more position-specific stock ups and talk about two positions that are probably at the forefront of one of the stronger position groups going into the 2026 draft class. So this is going to be a fun one. And then, of course, we'll just have a little bit of college football banter at the end and talk about what we would do if we were the best athletic directors in college football, right? You know, like, because we know who to hire. And yeah, we would be, right? If you need an athletic director, you can hire us too and stuff. But no, this will be a fun one.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's a year with the quarterback class a little bit unknown. The offensive line class has taken a major step back compared to where people thought they would be at this point over the summer. Of course, there's an incredible safety in this class, an incredible edge rusher, but wide receiver and linebacker are two of the deepest spots, and we are coincidentally diving into both of those. Jace, I'll let you kick us off at linebacker. I know you got one guy that you really want to focus on, a couple more stock ups, and then we can have some more conversations about some of those other guys. So I'll let you start us off at the quarterback of the defense.
Yeah, let's I'm sure a lot of you draft geeks, I should say, a lot of you draft geeks, right? If you're listening to this show, you've heard of Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. This is the biggest riser in the linebacker position. And this dude's so fun to watch. I'm sure if you've watched Texas Tech, which they've been at the forefront of a lot of college football games the last couple of weeks, and one of the best teams, even though they lost to Arizona State last week, this is a guy that stands out no matter who they're playing, no matter who you're watching. You might be watching Romello Height, or you might be watching someone else on that defense, but he stands out, right? Like Jacob Rodriguez is a dude. 6'1", 235. He currently has the best run defense grade amongst all linebackers. That's a 96.8 on PFF. He has the third highest coverage grade, which is an 87 flat. He has 2 interceptions, 4 forced fumbles, 6.5 TFLs. I mean, a couple things that just stand out. Like I said, if you're watching the game, he's going to jump off your screen. The dude has so many great instincts. He is always around the ball. He knows where it's going. He doesn't take false steps most of the time. He's quick to diagnose and read what's happening within the play, whether it's run, pass, pullers, whatever it is. He gets to the ball carrier. He's an elite run defender, which I think is a little bit of, I don't want to say a lost art in the linebacker position, but a lot of people are like, man, you need to cover more, which you do. A lot of people need to cover at the linebacker position because of how athletic and how the offenses are changing. They're getting spread and all those things. But he's one of those linebackers that you love because he's so good at stopping the run. He's a heat-seeking missile. He hits, he hunts the ball wherever it is, wide zone, inside zone, if it's in the pass. He creates turnovers, which I love about linebackers, right? They're one of the few positions, I know that corners and safeties, but they have way more opportunities to get their hands on balls in the pass game and get their hands on balls when they're running the ball or rushing the passer, right? You don't get many opportunities as a D end to affect the pass game. You can try to get tips, overthrows, things like that. But, this guy has the ability to punch the ball out. He can get strip sacks. He can get interceptions. And he's done that at an elite level so far this year. He's a sideline to sideline player. I don't worry about his athleticism again, because he's so instinctual. He can just make those plays because he's just always in pursuit of the ball. And then he has great block destruction with his hands. I think he's so sound in just how he plays the linebacker position, getting off blocks, playing with leverage, reading the keys, things like that. A couple of my concerns, and we'll see more as he goes up against some of the better Big 12 teams coming up. They play BYU, they play a couple other ones. He had a 22% missed tackle rate in 2024. Now that's currently down to 7%, which is great. He's cut that in almost a third. That is a huge improvement from last year. So continuing to be a more improved tackler. I think he might be a little undersized for the NFL. 6'1", we'll get official measurements, but we'll see. But again, I don't worry about his athleticism. I think he can make up for some of that stuff. And then the other thing would be I worry about his straight line speed to play against some of those elite running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs, the tight ends that you're seeing, Brock Bowers, things like that. But that's not enough to deter me from taking probably a late first, maybe an early day 2 pick on this guy, just with how instinctual he is and how he plays the linebacker position. So if you've seen Texas Tech, or if you haven't, you need to look for Jacob Rodriguez, because it's not hard to find him. He's going to stand out. You'll see number 10 in red or black on defense, and you'll be like, oh, that's the guy. Like, that is the quarterback of the defense, like you said, for Texas Tech. He's so fun to watch.
Not to be mistaken for David Bailey and Romello Height if you're trying to find who pops on the Texas Tech defense, because they have guys everywhere. But man, you touched on it. I think we're in pretty much lockstep on this guy, because while I don't think he's the fastest guy, it's all about instincts at the linebacker position. You could be super fast and not have good instincts, and you will appear slow. Jacob Rodriguez may not have the best speed, but he has great instincts to get to where he needs to be from point A to point B in a short period of time. And so I think that's what makes him so special. I think short term, he's somebody that can come in and stop the run very well. Long term, somebody I trust to wear a C on his chest, wear the green dot. I think this is a special guy. Maybe you pair him with more of the super athletic linebacker in the NFL if we're talking about best team fits. But this is a guy that plays forward, downhill so well. And I think, maybe where he does have concerns about covering or pacing with a more athletic player, I think the instincts just make up for it well enough. Right now, he's my third linebacker on my board. Jace, I don't know where you have him, but I've been so impressed by him. I didn't even really know who he was going into the season. And boy, he has taken the college football and NFL draft world by storm and become a top 50 prospect.
And rightfully so. And he'll have a bunch more opportunities to continue to up his stock because of the position that Texas Tech will be in, both in the Big 12 standings and probably the national standings going into the college football playoff. So you're going to be hearing and seeing a lot more of Jacob Rodriguez, which is awesome. Like, not that we need to, because I think he's answered a lot of questions, but it's just going to be fun to continue to see him play elite talent and in big time games. And hopefully, push Texas Tech to a college football playoffs berth or a Big 12 championship. We'll see how it goes, because they've been a surprisingly fun team to watch this year. So moving on to my next stock up guy in the linebacker room, I'm going Arvell Reese out of Ohio State. Now, there's 2 really good linebackers out of Ohio State, right? Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles. I like Arvell Reese because he's opposite of Jacob Rodriguez. This guy has the measurables. He's 6'4", 240 pounds. He has 6.5 TFLs and 5.5 sacks this year. In my opinion, I don't think he's as good of a prospect as Jahad Campbell was last year, but that's where I see the comps coming in. Is he's a great hybrid linebacker with his size. He can be off the ball. He can be on the ball. He has great length and size to do multiple different things. He can rush the passer because he's so strong. He has the length to get up there if you need to put him in a scheme like that or want to do that occasionally. And Ohio State's done that. He's played 144 snaps on the defensive line, the edge specifically, and 157 as an off-ball linebacker. So the versatility that NFL defenses and defensive coordinators might want, you're seeing Arvell Reese doing. And I don't think it's any coincidence that he's playing for Matt Patricia, right? Like, he's playing with a NFL defensive coordinator. Matt Patricia was so good when he was with New England. He's been good in other places, and he's turned that Ohio State defense into one of the best in the country. And so they're using him in what I think they feel like he could be in the NFL, which I think is just an even bigger plus for Arvell Reese. Couple of my concerns about him. I don't think he's as good of a pass coverage guy as Jahad Campbell. He has a 58.0 coverage grade, with most of his coverage plays coming when he's going against running backs. And it's really simple stuff. Like, it's just flats or shallow crossers or mesh concepts. I think he's a little late to diagnose them. He has a hard time running with them. But again, that's something that hopefully you're working around because of the size and the length and the versatility he can do. His zone dropping, I think he needs to process a little bit more. He's not sure where to drop to, guys in his area. He's not attaching to routes and things like that. So that's really my only concern as of right now is when you're in the NFL, you need to be able to play zone coverage, man coverage as a linebacker. You don't have to be elite at it. Not everyone's going to be Fred Warner at the NFL level in pass coverage, but you need to have some sort of competence in it, or you're probably going to get schemed up and ran off the field as a linebacker with how elite of athletes are on the offensive side. So, but again, like I said, I think that his comp right now, or where he lines up compared to last year's class, is like he's the Jahad Campbell type hybrid linebacker guy that can do multiple things because of his size, because of his length, and how well he's done it. And again, he's playing in an NFL scheme, I believe, with Matt Patricia, and it's only helping his stock.
I think it almost might be more similar to Jalen Walker in the way where he's splitting time at edge and linebacker, just because I remember loving Jahad Campbell's ability and coverage so much. But I think if you're looking at more of a big board comparison where they rank, Arvell Reese is in that Jahad Campbell spot. At least for me, I remember I had Campbell top 6. I think he was the 6th player on my big board. Arvell Reese is my number 1 linebacker in this draft class. From what he's done this year, another guy that was a massive ascension, came out of nowhere playing his best ball for an unbelievable defensive coordinator. And I think like Jacob Rodriguez, but even better, he is so good moving forward towards the football, whether it's from a standing edge rusher alignment or as a blitzing linebacker over a guard, over a center, or just playing linebacker position where, you mentioned there's some struggles in coverage, but I think if the route is in front of him, I think he's able to do it well. I do have concerns when he's playing backwards, if you will. And then my other concern, and it's kind of like we'll find out when he gets there, Sonny Styles next to him is the perfect complement. And so, and for those who don't know, Sonny Styles converted safety. So naturally, he picks up a lot of those coverage assignments and is a supreme athlete, plays very well backwards, back towards those deeper routes when he's asked to do that against a tight end or perhaps a running back, maybe a slot receiver. So Sonny Styles is able to pick that up. I think Arvell Reese will succeed in a spot where he's able to align next to a guy that can do that at the NFL level. But he is that kind of hybrid edge rusher, linebacker type of guy who I do not think should be converted into an edge rusher. I think this is his role as a linebacker, but somebody that can impact the pass rush game. Arvell Reese is a stud. And I think he's just, cracking that immense potential. I said Jacob Rodriguez was my LB3, and it's Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles in that order at 1 and 2.
I mean, and that's not bad company to be behind. And it could be, you could probably mix those 3 up in any order and you have an argument for any of them. I have Arvell Reese at a mid first round grade right now. I'd like to see a little bit more in the pass game just to put him in like a Jahad Campbell range. And that's why I was weary saying that comparison, but the lengths, the measurables, the ability that he can do some of those things is what I liked about that comparison, but not quite as polished as a guy and stuff. But let's move on to more of a deep sleeper, a guy that maybe some of you guys haven't heard. And me being a West Coast guy and, watching a lot of West Coast football and being familiar with the old Pac-12 and some of the new Big 12 teams, Isaiah Glasgow out of BYU is another guy that's really intriguing. Now, this guy, 6'5", 235 pounds. He had 6.5 TFLs and 2 sacks this year. He also has 2 interceptions. He has a 86.8 pass rush grade, which is 10th amongst linebackers, and a 27.6 passer rating against. And that's NFL passer rating, right? So great in coverage, great in the pass rush game. I think he plays with his hair on fire. He's constantly in the backfield. I believe he had 14.5 TFLs last year, which led the Big 12. So it's 2 years of elite production in the Big 12. Had, I think, 3 interceptions last year also. So he's already almost matched that this year. He's a great blitzing linebacker. That's what I think he's the best at, is when he can blitz, whether it's from, out on the apex position and he's blitzing off the edge, or whether he's blitzing in the A or B gap. He's great, and he can make guards miss. He's super nifty with his moves, trying to get around them. He's a converted safety and wide receiver in high school, and he started his career at BYU. He never like played games there, but that's what he was coming out of high school. So he has that athleticism. He has that ability, which I think is why he's so good in zone drops, is because he has that safety wide receiver background. Like he just has that experience doing some more things than just a normal backer would do. And then great size, 6'5", 235 is great size to do multiple things in the NFL. Like I said, he's a great blitzer. I don't think he's as good of a true pass rusher as Arvell Reese is if you were to just line him up on the edge, but you can send him on blitzes and disguise and do things like that, drop him in coverage right there. So his role in man coverage is going to be the concern. You're not going to put him in a man heavy team. You're going to, like I said, I think he would fit really well in like a Brian Flores system where you can do a bunch of different things with him, move him around, and just create havoc with him, whether it is in pass coverage or drop or rushing the passer. He does struggle in space little, which you expect from a 6'5", 235-pound linebacker, right? Like he's not going to be super fluid. He's not going to move around like you would expect someone else to. And I do think he needs to play with better pad level, especially if he's going to be more of a box backer where you're taking on pullers, guards, centers climbing up to you. He needs to play with more pad level. But he's 6'5". He has really long arms, and that's just not fair to compare him to a 6'2" backer like that, but still things he can work on. So a little bit more of a deeper sleeper. Well, that was a weird, what is that rhyme? A little bit more of a deep sleeper, I should say. Earliest I could see him going right now would be late day 2, and I don't even think that that's likely. I think he's a day 3 pick right now, probably somewhere in the 4th or 5th round. But a guy that is catching a lot of attention, and again, one of the best defenses in the country in BYU, who is just they get after the passer, they create turnovers, and they stop the run, and he's a big part of it.
Isaiah Glasker, that's the name?
Isaiah Glasker.
All right, that's a new name for me, so I'll have to go watch him. But
you'll have to. There's another BYU backer. His name's Jack Kelly, and you'll see a lot of. This is a super cliche comparison. You'll see Javon Walker in him because he has the twitch off the edge. 6'1", he has the twitch off the edge to pass rush, and he actually.
And you don't know what position he's going to play in the NFL.
Subtle plug, because I couldn't put him on the show. He transferred from Weber State. If you guys know anything. He was a 2-time All-American at Weber State.
I'm out on him.
He led the conference in sacks at the Big Sky level. This is his 2nd year at BYU, but he almost led the team in sacks last year. And Coach Hill, the defensive coordinator for BYU, said if they played him at sacks or played him at the end permanently, he'd probably lead the conference in sacks. That's how comfortable they are with him. So as you watch Isaiah Glasker, you might see another guy, that number 17, Jack Kelly, but those are 2 fun linebackers that are probably late day 2, early day 3 picks right now with some special teams value that could sneak up boards.
Man, that Holy War was so fun. And I probably watched both of those guys. They got that wide receiver.
Chase Roberts.
Yeah. Oh, I think Chase Roberts needs to be in the NFL, and Utah's got a wide receiver as well who would have given Danny Amendola a run for his money back in the Patriot days.
Yeah,
but those are two very fun teams. Perhaps more on BYU later in our top 10 section.
Yes. I'll talk about my last guy, and it's not a riser or a faller. I didn't want to force a faller. It's just a guy that. I mean, and you agreed on this pre-show, is like he was really good last year. I really like him as a player. I just don't think he's done much to improve his stock. And that's Austin. You're going to correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Romaine?
I think it's it's Romine or Romaine.
Yeah.
And I think Austin Romine is the backup catcher for the Padres a couple of years ago.
Bro, when I typed him into PFF, or when I typed him into Google and put PFF behind it, it just kept bringing me to the baseball page. I'm like, he's not a baseball player. So that's funny that you brought
Chad
that up.
Power situation. He is the same person.
No, but this is the linebacker from Kansas State. Now, he's 6'2", 245. I think he's got great size to be a linebacker, and he's young. I actually don't expect him to come out this year, even though he is draft eligible. But this is a guy that he's draft eligible, and he had a lot of hype going into last year. He had a 90.8 PFF grade in 2024. He had the 5th most run stops, which was 28. Or actually, sorry, that's what he has this year. 28 run stops on PFF, which is the 5th most. This is a fearless physical linebacker. When you think of old school type linebackers, especially Kansas State, right? Like this is what you think of. That's what he is. Fearless, downhill, physical, plays with great leverage. He plays with great pad level, his hands, how he strikes, things like that. He's able to defeat blocks. He's a high motor player, great tackler, does not miss many tackles. He's also had a ton of special teams experience, and he has a lot of roles on special teams. I'm pretty sure that on PFF, I've seen he's played kick return, kickoff, punt return, punt. So he's done all of them. Where he lacks is he's just not that elite athlete I think the NFL is looking for. He's going to be a special teams guy and probably a rotational guy in the NFL at some point, day 3 pick, but he doesn't have the speed or the athleticism to play sideline to sideline like, let's say, a Jacob Rodriguez does or some of the guys we talked about. He's more of a see ball, get ball type guy right now, and that could be the scheme that he plays in for Kansas State, but I don't think he reads and diagnoses very well. Sometimes he's taking wrong steps and missing the holes he's supposed to fit. But again, he was effective at it last year. Like, he had a ton of TFLs, was always in the backfield. Seems like he's always around the ball. He's also not good in pass coverage. He lacks athleticism, like I said, so the man can be hard. And then again, you kind of see some of the processing things where it's in zone coverage. Maybe he's not pushing to the right zones, not attaching to routes. And then and I don't want to knock linebackers too much for this. I think it's a plus for a lot of NFL teams. I don't think he has much pass rushing ability. Not that you have to as a linebacker. It's just when you talk about guys that are going to go early day 2 or late day 1, they can rush the passer, and he doesn't have that. And so that's where it comes in my opinion. Again, really good linebacker. I don't expect him to come out this year. He is draft eligible, but someone to watch because he had a really good year last year. Kansas State struggled a little bit this year, and he's been, kind of a culprit of that too. He's fallen into that, but someone that I'll keep watching and keeping an eye on to see if he improves his stock a little bit more and answers some of those questions.
Yeah, he was fantastic in that week 0 game against Ireland. In Ireland against Iowa State. That would be awesome idea for next year. If Kansas State loses out, let's just have him suit up against Ireland, see what happens. But yeah, true junior, I believe. So somebody that I would have no problem seeing go back to school. Is that all you had for linebackers?
That's all I have for linebackers.
Let's change gears, my friend. Let's go to wide receivers. So this is time for an admission. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's what we're going to go with. Jason and I were talking pre-show. You can't be wrong in April. And if you are, you just never talk about it. But if you're wrong in August and June, it's a lot of fun. And I was really wrong about Carnell Tate. Not wrong in the way that I was like, oh, this guy's not a good football player. But I'm like, he's behind Igbuka, behind Jeremiah Smith going, he doesn't draw the safety with him. He doesn't have the best corner on him. And he did not showcase the body control and ability to high point the football that he has this year, last year. This is a different player. This is an ascending prospect. I'm super impressed with Carnell Tate this year. He is my biggest riser. He was towards the back of my top 8, I believe 7 or 8 in the summer. Carnell Tate has moved into wide receiver 2 territory. Him and Makai Lemon, as you said over the summer, Jace. Carnell Tate's been incredible. He's got right around 600 yards, 6 touchdowns this year. He's graded out very, very well. 6'3", 200 pounds, so he's got NFL size, no drops this year. And he is, are you ready? 10 of 11 on contested catches this year. This guy put up a contested catch clinic against Wisconsin, and he's proven that he is next in line of the great Ohio State receivers, and he's not even the best one on his team.
Yeah, it's hard because a lot of eyes go to Jeremiah Smith, but Carnell Tate has been catching him. I believe, let me go back and look. I shouldn't say I believe. I had him at wide receiver 2 going in. I seem to value a little bit more of the bigger body guys, and I think the NFL does slightly. But I loved how he gets off of press. I thought he was actually good at getting off of press for his size, in my opinion. The ball skills, the length to catch away from the frame, which you said, in catching 10 of 11 contested catches. He tempos routes. I think that he's just, for his size, I didn't expect him to be as good of a route runner as he was. And even when he's
so nuanced.
He's in the contested catch situations, which isn't a lot, but he gets in them, he makes those plays regularly. It's not 50-50. It's like 70-30, maybe even higher. I mean, right now it's 90-10. So I shouldn't even say 70-30, but that's high expectations. But, and then again, I loved him because he's deceivingly fast. He's a long strider. So you don't think that he's fast, but he eats up so much ground in every step. You don't expect him to get on you and get past you as quick as he does. So it's been fun to watch Carnell Tate. Yeah, I agree with you. You're not wrong in April or whatever, or what is it, August. You're not wrong in August, June, July, whenever you're doing it. Yeah, you're wrong.
You just don't talk about it if you are.
You just didn't see it. And, I think he's opening a lot of eyes for people and answering a lot of questions.
Yeah, Carnell Tate's been explosive. He can stretch the field. He's got a chance, I think, to be maybe as good as Emeka Egbuka's been when he gets into the league. I think this guy could be very, very special. One other stock up guy I'll talk about. I got one more after this, and then a biggest faller, a little bit of a stock down. If you're watching on YouTube, you have that spoiler in front of me. If you're audio only, you'll have to wait. The other stock up is Chris Brazzell, the wide receiver out of Tennessee. This is a big bodied player. And I know when I say those three words, wide receiver Tennessee, a lot of people grab whatever nearest red object is and wave it like a red flag, like, whoa. But I'll turn back the clock a little bit because I was somebody, as there were a lot of people that had Jalen Hyatt over Cedric Tillman. Now, I didn't like really either of them, but I think it's pretty clear one's actually been good in the NFL and just been banged up constantly, and the other has really, really struggled. Cedric Tillman was asked to kind of play more of that NFL role at the top of that little stack that they run. And that's what Chris Brazzell's been asked to do. Now, he stretches the field very well. He's got that slender frame, but I think Chris Brazzell makes it work. He's a long strider, kind of like Carnell Tate is. He's got a ton of contested catch opportunities. He's brought in 4 of 9, but I just love that they trust him going deep there. I think he is a field stretcher, big-bodied guy, kind of what people wanted Dante Thornton to be with that 6'5" frame and that speed. But Chris Brazzell has really, really taken a step up this year. He's got almost 600 yards. He's scored 7 times. And, some of my concerns with him, and I know I didn't really list any with Carnell Tate. It's because I don't have many. Chris Brazzell, a lot of the times with these breakouts, you're like, oh, like where'd they get him from? And, he did transfer. He did transfer from Tulane, but he was at Tennessee last year and just didn't really play that well and didn't really play that much. He had 29 catches for 330 yards. And this year he's exploded. So always a little bit of a cautionary tale with those late breakouts, especially in systems that can feature guys for so many big plays. Like against Georgia, he had 6 catches for 177 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's just not a stat line. And to go deeper into that, that's not something you find at the NFL level. That's really this Tennessee system that really focuses on stretching the field. So he's a little bit of a product of that, but I've seen some of Chris Brazzell on tape that makes me say, I do think that you can play ball in the NFL. So I don't think this is a first round pick. I think a lot of SEC people, Tennessee people may tell you that. That's where I'd pump the brakes a little bit, but I do think this is a top 50 player and somebody that's risen enough for me to say, I'm in enough on Chris Brazzell to take him top 50 and call him a riser, but I could totally see myself come April being on the other end of the Chris Brazzell section where people try to push him into the first round. I'm like, no, let's not do that. Cause I do like Carnell Tate, a couple other guys, the guy I'll bring up next better, but I do need to flag Chris Brazzell and say, I think this is for real. And people shouldn't helmet scout on this one and say it's Jalen Hyatt all over again.
Yeah. And everyone's going to have the concerns with Tennessee receivers, right? They run to space. It's a very simple, not super polished route tree. It's kind of the thing we were talking about with Trey Harris last year. Is how much was he asked to do? But he's super effective at it. And at 6'5", how explosive he is in and out of breaks, how fast he eats up ground. There's going to be a role for him in the NFL. This pains me to say it because a Patriot fan, but he's actually doing really good right now in Kansas City. Tyquan Thornton. And this guy's taller than Tyquan Thornton. He has that slender frame and he's a deep threat. And what else is he? That's why he's probably not going to be a first round pick, is there's going to be too many questions on route running ability and things like that. But Other than that, he's checked every box. He's going to put up a crap ton of numbers in that offense with Joey Aguilar and Josh Heupel calling the offense, and they're probably going to make a run at the SEC, or sorry, not at the SEC, but at the college football playoff like they were last year. So he's going to be in the limelight also, and he has all the recognition now, so he's going to be drawing the best assignments for that team. He doesn't have a Jeremiah Smith, who still, even if you like, oh, we want to take it away from Carnell Tate, well, Jeremiah Smith will go for 500 yards if we do it. It's his team.
Pick your poison.
It's his team for Tennessee, and he'll continue to have that opportunity to do it. So, yeah, another fun guy that, again, he wasn't in our summer scouting episode for receivers, and now he's probably up there for most of us. I haven't re-ranked my receivers because there's a bunch of them that have came up that I haven't watched and stuff, but I would imagine he'd be pretty high up there.
Yeah, and I re-ranked a little bit, but haven't re-ranked a while ago. Need to go in again, but I had him all the way up to wide receiver 6, and I'm seeing a couple names below him that I would have higher now. So somebody that's around that wide receiver 8 to 9 range. And one more thing I do want to shout out, because I did mention that he didn't do much in 2024. Not everybody gets to go from Tulane to Tennessee. He was fantastic in 2023, had 700 yards, 5 touchdowns in the American Conference, and now is kind of living up to what Tennessee got him to do. So Chris Brazel's somebody got to bring up. But when Dane Brugler gives you somebody and you say, who? This time a couple months ago, like you and I did before our show about Chris Bell, oh my God, was he right? This guy can play. I think Chris Bell is a back end of the first round guy. I'm really curious after I go through this. I'll give you my comp, and if I forget, remind me to give it to you. But Chris Bell is somebody who is 6'2", 220, maybe. And I don't say maybe as in he may fall short of that. I think he may be way bigger than 220. I think we may get like a surprise 6'2.5", 6'3". This guy's got tremendous size. He's very filled out, and he's explosive. He's somebody you can feed over the middle. You can give him a screen. He'll break a tackle, get yards after the catch. Throw him a slant. He may score. He may beat you deep. This guy's got a versatile route tree. I think he's got the best football coming ahead of him. He's a senior, so he's not some guy that's, hidden young. But he put together 730 yards last year, 4 touchdowns. He's on his way to 1,000 this year and double-digit touchdowns. So he's taken that leap. He's got 3 games in a row of over 135 yards. Let that one sink in. That doesn't happen very often, much less for Louisville. He's got 5 touchdowns in the last 3 games as well. So he's graded out super well. And he's got 8 contested catches this year. Chris Bell's just somebody that can play above the rim. He can play right at the line of scrimmage. He can play in the intermediate. I watched him with a close eye in that Miami game on Friday night. Chris Bell is really good, man. And I think and it's been a viral tweet going around, so I don't want to say it like it's my idea, but you see all these tweets about like, look at Puka, look at JSN, look at, and Justin Jefferson's obviously more physically talented than those guys, but the way those 3 win, and Mecca Ibuka, the way those 3 win is they draw you in close because they'll kill you in the intermediate, and then they can beat you over the top. But that's not really their game. They just want to live in that intermediate, in that short. They'll eat you up. They recognize that football is a 10-yard game. And if you can get the 10 yards over and over again, you'll never lose. I think Chris Bell helps you do that. I think this is a wide receiver 2 at the NFL level, high end though, and could be a wide receiver 1 on a bad team, or grow into a wide receiver 1, but at least a wide receiver 2, 1B out of the gates. Really like this guy. There's a reason he's got 62 targets on the year in 6 games for Louisville. My comp, Jace, and this is a college comp because I know the player in the NFL has only lived up to expectations for about like 6 days in his NFL career. And, I mean 6 games, and I think you know where I'm going with it. It's Xavier Legette from South Carolina.
Okay.
The big-bodied player who, and by the way, I'll say this because I hate the A.J. Brown comparisons as much as I hate the Josh Allen comparisons for quarterbacks. Not every big-bodied quarterback with a rocket arm and legs is Josh Allen. Not every big-bodied receiver who's filled out and can burn you with legs is A.J. Brown. But I do see a lot of Xavier Legette and Chris Bell, where when Xavier Legette was at South Carolina, and you play off coverage because it's 1st and 15, and they throw him a slant, and all of a sudden the safety's looking at the bottom of his cleats because Xavier Legette just burned by guys. I think Chris Bell has that ability. I think he's a little bit more twitch, where Xavier was speed, but I do think these guys are similar, and I think that's the best way that I can kind of describe to somebody what Chris Bell's game is without them having watched Bell.
Well, I was reading an article the other day, I forget by who, but it said Chris Bell, AJ Brown, or Treylon Burks, right? Like that's kind of what you're asking right now is he AJ Brown, lofty comparison? Is he first round Treylon Burks, right? And obviously he's probably going to fall somewhere in between because that is the high end of the spectrum and the low end of the spectrum. So he's probably going to fall somewhere in between there. But man, every time I look at him,
Xavier Legette what the middle of that spectrum is?
It could be
the lower
6
middle
games of Xavier Legette.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Every time I watch this guy in Louisville, I'm like, is this a linebacker playing receiver that just runs a 4.4?
Yeah.
Like his size, how built he is, everything. He's one of those receivers. And again, yes, the AJ Brown comparison is crazy, but he's built and looks like AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, some of those receivers that we've seen had success come out the last 4 or 5 years. And that's not saying he's going to be like that, but that's why he reminds everyone like that is because of his build, how he plays, how he runs, and kind of coming out of nowhere, in my opinion, where it's like, wow, yeah, Dane Bugler said this. And now all of a sudden it's like, wow, he really is like probably a top 5 receiver in this class and stuff. So we'll keep seeing it because Louisville, huge upset against Miami last week. See if they compete for the ACC. But him and Miller Moss have been putting up huge numbers, and it's been fun to watch this offense work for them and see if they continue to make a run and see if he continues to keep playing like he lives on another planet, because that's what he looks like and that's what he plays like.
Man, not all 220s are created equal, huh?
They are
unbelievable.
I weigh 220 and I don't look anything like him, guys. I know you can only see me from like my chest up, but I don't look anything like him, I promise.
And one last thing on that, like I know I say I don't like the AJ Brown comps, but I think it gets thrown around more than it should because at least people can understand it. Like if I tell somebody that Chris Bell is comp to Xavier Legette, that raises a lot of questions. And what do you mean? Xavier was a first rounder, but he hasn't lived up to it. But like if I say AJ Brown, you kind of know what I mean. So if it's an easier comp to say non all pro AJ Brown, like sure, we can live with that. But Chris Bell, really special player. And then really quickly, want to touch on my biggest faller, and it's not necessarily because there's been just a big drop off in his game, but it's somebody that I kind of had in the mold of that, like JSN, Puka, not same type of player where they're very, those two guys are stout and can break some tackles. They'll get a little physical, but Antonio Williams from Clemson was somebody that I loved so much in the short yardage game over the summer. And it just hasn't been there for that entire offensive unit this year. And, he was banged up weeks 1 through 3.
Yeah.
But it's just been an all-around disappointment for that team on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, Cade Klubnik was my top-ranked quarterback behind Arch Manning before the season started, and he's so far from that now. Antonio Williams has dropped a lot. This is somebody that put up 900 yards and 11 touchdowns last year. I wanted him to live in the red zone, live in getting his team to the red zone. Doesn't have to stretch the field, but that kind of element where he's able to strike because he's got Bryant Wesco and the couple of those other young receivers that are just ballers for them, drawing a little bit more of the attention. He gets to be that complimentary guy because I don't think he's anything more than that complimentary guy, but that's still a big role. Just haven't seen it this year from him. And he's still an NFL player, and he's still potentially a day 2 draft pick. He's still got very reliable hands, and I still believe in him as a route runner. But that next step just hasn't been taken. And I think if anything, there's been a step back taken. And maybe he gets healthy and finishes strong. But I do think the ship has sailed on him being a top 5 receiver in this class. So my stock down is Antonio Williams for this episode.
Well, and it's not a good sign because when we did our summer scouting, one of my cons for him was injury concerns. So it doesn't help that the first 3 games he was injured. He's already a little bit slighter in frame. I do think that he is great at running routes. He had an 88th percentile separation score, and he was great yards after the catch wise. But again, that offense has just not been where we thought it was going to be this year. And he's been banged up. So he's dealing with an injury. He's dealing with a little bit of a lack of production from the quarterback position also. And so how much of that is affecting his play, we'll see. I agree with you. I had him at wide receiver 6 going into summer scouting. I'd probably put Chris Bell above him, probably Chris Brazel too. But we'll see where it ends up and see if he can get some of his production back up to where it was in 2024.
Yeah, all I would say is I would get rid of the probablys.
Okay, my fault. I was just trying to be nice to the guy, man. Like, come on, injuries. It happens.
Yeah, he plays for Clemson. It's fine.
That's why.
Kidding.
That's why.
Of course, kidding. No, but it is tough when you see a guy like that is a very talented player, but doesn't have those physical tools to put you over the top. Because you think of them as a high floor player, but the best ability is availability. And when you're a high floor guy, you need to be on the field and you need to be producing. You need to be putting up catches and yards. So if he's not doing that, his stock takes a hit, and that's what it's done so far.
Totally agree. Let's move on to our top 10. We're gonna rank off our top 10. If you guys follow Max on social media, he uploads this every week, and I always tease it, or I always send him something and disagree because I have to be a troll a little bit and stuff.
That's what you have to be. I live for that, by the way.
But it will be fun because like there are some differences, right? Like you view some things bad, I view some things as not, and so we'll get to talk about this. We'll probably have there's probably a bulk of 12 or 13, maybe 14 teams that we could have in this top 10.
Yeah,
we might have a couple of the same, but I would imagine
Should we run
not.
Through
so
top 5s first. I wonder if we have the same 5 teams. We may not have them in the same order, but Jace, I have faith in you and in myself.
Let's do reverse order like we do when we're doing rankings. So let's go 10 through 6.
All right, let's start off hot. So I'll start, and if you're watching on YouTube, which you should be, but if you're not, we've got our most impressive teams listed. So I'm going to start with mine. I thought I might finish with mine, but I'm going to start with it. It's Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has brought Big Ten ball to the SEC, and they control the clock. They control the tempo. They win up front. They win with their fat guys, with their hog mollies. They're able to run the ball. Diego Pavia is so good at controlling the play clock, controlling whether they keep the ball on the ground, whether they run the ball. His escape artist ability to turn throwaways into 5-yard scampers, keep the clock moving, keep the chains moving is so good. He does just enough. And Vanderbilt is a top 10 team in college football at number 10 for me. Now, I'll flag really quickly. I do think like they beat an LSU team that's propped up because Clemson was propped up. And, they've caused another SEC team that I have rated higher who beat LSU to be propped up. And so there's a little bit of some overrating here. And I think it all stems from that very high Clemson preseason ranking that LSU won what we thought might have been like the game of the year. So we're still experiencing some fallout. But the way fallout works in college football is it becomes more reality as it gets later in the season. And Vanderbilt looked like they were going to maybe beat Alabama for 2.5 quarters. So I'm fine having them at 10. Much more comfortable with them than LSU, who I had in this spot last week.
Yeah, I have Vanderbilt at 12. Again, it's exactly what you said. I love the Vanderbilt magic. I don't value the LSU win. And the Alabama loss makes me wonder, like, can they compete with the Georgias and the other schools in the SEC? I don't think they're a top 4 team in the SEC. I love the magic. I think they can beat anyone on any given day, but I don't think that they're
I don't think they're top 4. I don't think they're top 4 in the SEC either. And so, we don't have to spend that much time on every team. I just highlighted them because that was my most impressive team list.
I like it. So finish me with 9 through 6, and then I'll read off my 10.
Vanderbilt 10, Notre Dame 9, Miami 8, Ole Miss 7, Oregon 6.
Okay, I like it. I mean, there's really not much to. You have Oregon 6. I have them a little bit higher, which we'll get to in there. So now. One sec. I'm trying to pull up mine because I had it saved on here and now it's not on here.
And while Jace looks, let me defend myself really quickly. The Notre Dame has 2 losses convo. I'm not here for it.
Yeah.
Because we're going to list out both of those losses and they lost by 4 total points. That's better than beating Wake Forest in overtime by 1. Georgia Tech fans, thank you.
So my 10 is Ole Miss. I have Ole Miss at 10. I like Ole Miss. I really like Lane Kiffin. I think that Trinidad Chambliss has been incredible. So I have them at 10. I have Notre Dame at 9. I have
Look
Miami
at
at
that.
8. Yeah,
Look at that.
there you
9 and
go.
8. Same.
I almost flipped them. Because I believe in Notre Dame more than Miami. I believe in Marcus Freeman more than Mario Cristobal. I believe in Jeremiah Love.
Yeah.
Carson Beck started showing Carson Beck that we thought he was going to be. At the start of the year, he flipped the tables where like that's not who it is. And then now it's
now Carson Beck is back.
Yeah, exactly. Carson Beck came. That's perfect. So that one I almost flipped, but I didn't. I have Georgia Tech at 7. I have Texas A&M at 6.
All right.
I got to talk about A&M because I know you'll get into them. But my reasoning for having them a little bit lower, I guess I don't believe in Marcel Reed.
I think they're gettable, Jace. I think they're gettable.
That's my thing is like, they're better than Vanderbilt in the SEC, but I still don't put them above Alabama, Georgia. I think if they were to play Ole Miss, I don't think that they would beat them either. So it's hard for me to put A&M up there in the top 5. I just don't believe they are. I think they're playing really good football. Elko always has those teams going, and the defense is incredible.
Yeah.
But I have a little bit more concerns about Marcel Reed when it gets further into the SEC schedule and stuff.
And I 100% agree with you there. I'll have them very high on this ranking. That's because of their defense. I think it's an insane unit, maybe the second best. And if I ever call a defense best in the country and it's not Ohio State, just assume that like I'm not counting Ohio State.
Yeah.
This is, I think, a better group than that stellar Indiana, stellar Oklahoma group. I think Texas A&M's incredible. They've been incredible on third down this year. The defense travels, but I like you. I think when they play November ball, we may get a dud from Marcel Reese, and it may be at the worst possible time. But it sounds like we see that 10 through 6 range pretty evenly. I have Miami over Notre Dame because they played in Miami 1.
Yes,
but I think
that's why I couldn't flip them either.
But we're getting close, Jace, to the point where you can flip a week 1 game that was decided by that close. 5 through 1?
Yeah, 5 through 1.
I'm guessing who'd you have at 6 really quick?
I had A&M.
Okay. Oh, right. 5 through 1, I have Georgia at 5, Alabama at 4. I have Texas A&M at 3. And then I have Indiana 2 and Ohio State 1.
Okay, so we have the same top 2. So I had Oregon at 5, Georgia 4, Alabama 3, Indiana 2, Ohio State 1. I'll hit on it a little bit because you see right here on the graphic, Indiana is my most impressive team.
Take it away.
That feels like a cop-out because they were so good last year. I didn't believe in the hype going back in. I'm like, man, was that just one good year? I'm all aboard the Cignetti train. Fernando Mendoza has been playing incredible. Maybe the Heisman favorite right now, other than the team that I have at 3, Ty Simpson, their quarterback. But those two programs right there, because of the emergence of their quarterback, I didn't see it coming. I didn't see Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson playing at a Heisman level. And so that's why I have them there. I still think Oregon and Dan Lanning, Dante Moore's had a couple of down games, but I still think that he's one of the top prospects in this class too for quarterback. And they have so much talent, whether it's on the O-line, D-line, or even like you look at Kenyon Sadiq and stuff. Like they got guys. And then Ohio State's Ohio State. You're not going to move Ohio State until someone proves them wrong. With that defense, how it's playing too. And like you said, Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, Julian Sayin, you're not going to move that team off of number 1 until it's proven that they're not the number 1 team and the best team in the country and stuff.
I love it, Jace. I think we have one team different, and it's Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech, right? I think. Yeah. So, and we've got the same top 6 teams. I love it. We see it eye to eye. We'll find out a lot about A&M this weekend when they play LSU. If they stomp on them, we don't learn anything. We just learn LSU's overrated. But if LSU hangs out for longer than they should, we may learn some things.
Non-top 10 teams who we think could win a college football game. I'll start this off.
I think they could all win a college football game, but I think this is more about could they win a college football playoff
They've already won a lot of college football games. You're right. Could they win a road college football playoff game is really the thing because we're assuming they're not going to be one of the automatic qualifiers or get the home games. I have Louisville. I think if Louisville makes it, they have a chance because of who we talked about. If Chris Bell's playing elite, I think Miller Moss is an experienced quarterback in college football, good enough to win you a road game, depending on who they're playing, right? I'm not going to say they're going to go beat Ohio State, but if they were to get a good matchup against a home team, right? Like, they could do it. They just went into Miami and did it. And so I could see them doing it again in a college football road game with how explosive that offense is. Some of the guys that are on that team. And again, an experienced quarterback that, yeah, he's not a world beater, but he's probably not going to lose you the game either. He's going to do enough to win you the game and get the guys that need the football in big situations and have, hopefully a lot of success for them. So, and then I like your pick also. I mean, I'll let you talk about them, but Texas Tech is a pretty good one too.
And listen, I juggled with like Southern Cal, Arizona State, USF. USF's a little crazy, I know, but they won at the Swamp.
I almost put Navy because I'm like, hey, if they just give the team the ball 3 times,
like if Navy's tricky because if the wrong team like let's say they play Ole Miss, right?
Yeah.
If the Ole Miss defense comes out in like the wrong mindset with the wrong game plan, you're not going to win the game. That's how the service academies work.
If the team doesn't get up on them and they don't have to pass the ball, they could take 8 minutes off the clock every drive, and your offense might touch the ball five times in the game.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, exactly. I almost put them, but I didn't want to.
That would have been awesome. And Texas Tech, I'll open it with this, feels a little bit like a cop-out just because, like, I think if everybody with a straight face kind of knows this is, without saying it or ranking it, a top 10 team in the country if they have Baron Morton, which, by the way, we found that out last week. It was a little bit of a conversation like, well, when the going gets tough, are they going to go to Will Hammond? Might they go to Will Hammond? He played well against Utah. Baron Morton's not great. But we found out Will Hammond needs some more time. True freshman quarterback, didn't play so well against Arizona State. They dropped that game. Still a huge believer in Texas Tech. Defense travels. We talked about Jacob Rodriguez. If you're watching on YouTube, you see David Bailey there, Romello Height, Skylar Gill-Howard. This defense is incredible. I think Joey McGuire is a good coach. I think they have enough offensive firepower. Not that it's everywhere, but I think they have enough to go on the road and win a game in the college football playoff. So Texas Tech's my pick. It's a little bit of the higher end team that isn't going to be hosting a team. Oh gosh, isn't going to be hosting a college football playoff game and isn't in our top 10. But Louisville, I like as a sleeper, and it's just because they did go in and beat a potential college football playoff team. So I love it.
Yes. I like both those picks. I could see both of them happening if Texas Tech, like you said, doesn't already have a home game. They are one of the best teams in college football, so it's hard not to pick them. So we're going to do a fun little exercise right here, and we'll kind of go quick. We won't, stay super long on this, but coaching carousel, man, there's 3 huge jobs open right now. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to talk about Penn State, Florida, Arkansas, who we should hire. And then I'm going to fire a coach from a team that Max doesn't know. He's going to hire one to replace, and then vice versa. So let's start with probably the biggest opening, biggest story, Penn State firing James Franklin. Man, the best job in America got to be a fired college football coach. How would you like to get?
I would love.
Jimbo Fisher, they live good. They living good. But
they're living great.
Who are you hiring? We're the ADs of Penn State. Who are you hiring to replace him?
I'm hiring a program guy. I'm hiring Matt Rule. I think Matt Rule loves the Penn State program, and now I can't guarantee you that he's the best option in terms of winning football games, but I can guarantee you that he is going to build a culture there, and once it sets in, he's not going to jump ship because he's a Penn State guy, former Penn State player, walk on there, and has just been a culture guy everywhere he goes. So Matt Rule would be my hire here. You're not getting Cignetti. You're not getting Marcus Freeman. I don't want to stretch too deep here. I think Matt Rule's realistic, and I think Matt Rule would be a good hire. Maybe not a fantastic one, but I don't know if they're going to get a fantastic hire.
Yeah, and I put Matt Rule down too because I think that's who it ends up being.
It's a little bit.
They're going to swing for the fence. They're going to swing for a couple guys. They got to at least try for Cignetti. One name I want to put out.
Extended him like in 20 years.
He ain't leaving, and he's 64, so he's probably like, man, yeah. The one name I wanted to throw out there, other than Matt Rule, because I had a feeling you'd say that. I have a hard time with this because I just don't know where he views it, because I think where he's at is a good job in the ACC. But I think Rhett Lashey could be in.
I'm going to bring him up later.
Okay, all right. So you're going to bring him up, and so that's good. I think Rhett Lashey could go there because SMU has a lot of money, right? They have a lot of money, but he's only making like $3 million a year. Penn State's going to probably make him 6, 7, maybe $8 million a year. It's going to be probably double the pay. And I do like SMU, but I don't know if they have a legitimate chance to win a national championship. Penn State probably does with the right guy there. So although I do think Matt Rule is going to be the guy that ends up there, Rhett Lashlee would be a name that I would at least like to. I think it would be fun to see him there. He would definitely change the offensive culture, probably.
I love it. They haven't lost a conference game in years. They were 8-0 last year in the ACC, 8-0 in the American the year before, and finished 3-0 in the American the year before that. So he's a heck of a ball coach, but I think we both agree Matt Rule is probably the guy here. Let's shift gears to Florida. I'll let you go first because if you say the name, I think I kind of have a reactive second plan here.
All right. Well, the name that I think is a guy that's been climbing up the ranks for a couple years now, and that's Jedd Fisch from Washington.
Wow.
And he started at Arizona. He turned that program around. He didn't need to do much at Washington because they were coming off a national championship. They didn't fire their coach. They lost him to Alabama. He's doing great things there. And I think that Washington is a hell of a job. I don't know if I would leave Washington, but Florida's different, man. Like SEC, the swamp. I believe he GA'd at Florida. He's
got some ties to Florida
early in his career.
Yeah.
And although I think you can win a national championship at Washington because they were just in it, I just think Florida gives you a little bit better of a chance. That budget, that money, the area. I think if he were to go to Gainesville, that Jedd Fisch would have another really good opportunity to win a national championship for the Florida Gators. So that's who I put. I put Jedd Fisch from Washington.
I like it. I do like it. I have two concerns with Fisch. One, it's where is he personally at this point in his career? Is he ready to leave Washington where it's kind of a slower environment there? It's a great place to coach. To go to Florida where there's always knives on your neck. It's a little bit of a tougher spot. And then if I'm Florida's AD, I'm looking at this guy's track record and I'm like, are you bought in? Because this guy jumps a lot. So that's my little concern there. I'll give you the two guys I had for Florida. One is James Franklin. And it's
I had a feeling he would be brought up.
Does he want to go back to the SEC? He was at Vanderbilt. Maybe there was a time where he's like, God, I would love to coach at Florida. I think there's a chance he loses the best job in the cycle and is the home run hire of the cycle, which is just crazy. My other name is Alex Golesh, the head coach at the University of South Florida, who may make the college football playoff this year, which may hurt him in terms of coaching hires if he wants to leave, because they may be playing football a lot longer than some of these other guys and some guys who are already fired. But they went to the swamp. They won a game there this year. I don't know if the fans would feel like it's a Billy Napier situation all over again, hiring a group of 5 guy. But I feel like the Florida fans would like it just because he's familiar recruiting in the state. He's a big time guy. He's won a lot of important games at USF, and he's really built something there. It's a legit team in college football. This isn't some thing that there's a group of 5 team that's got a good record. No, they schedule big games. They win big games. They play with really good teams. They almost beat Alabama a couple years ago. I think this guy's a fantastic coach. And I think if there's a job for him, it's Florida. So had to bring him up there.
Heck, they just beat Florida. So
yes, they did. That's why I'm like, would they really have a problem with that? This guy just came in and beat us.
Yeah. So 2 things about him. And I'll spoil it now. I actually had Alex Golesh going to Arkansas.
Wow.
The job we're going to bring up.
Yeah.
Because he has SEC ties, right? He was at Tennessee as the offensive coordinator, tight ends coach. He's been in the SEC. So I think it's a good fit. Will Florida, and here's my question, will they take another shot in the dark like they did with Billy Napier?
Know. That's kind of why I said I don't know.
Billy Napier was the same way. Huge success at the group of 5 level.
Yeah.
And they brought him in, and they have just, like you said, have been at his neck forever.
Yeah.
And so will the AD take another chance at that? I love Alex Golesh. I think he would be a great option for Florida. In-state ties, just beat them, all that. But will the AD and will the boosters get on board with, hey, let's do what we did with Billy Napier again? I don't know if they will. So that would be my only concern. And then that's why I said, I think, again, he probably makes a college football playoff. He's in for a job. And going from USF to Arkansas, Arkansas might not be the best job, but it's an SEC job. He has ties to the SEC. it's safer. You're not going to have those expectations. He can probably, build that program a little slower than what Florida is going to allow him to. And that might fit, more of his style. So that's who I had for Arkansas. Who'd you have?
Well, and one more thing on Golish. If you're Florida's AD and you swing and miss at another group of 5 coach, you might be done. So that is tough. Arkansas, I had Rhett Lashie. I think and I looked this up, I think he went to Arkansas.
There you go.
So when that job comes open and he's not getting paid in Dallas, I think Rhett Lashie would be a fantastic hire for the Razorbacks. I think this guy's a great coach. I'll keep this one short. All signs point to him leaving SMU just because I don't think that program is doing enough to keep this guy in house. And Arkansas, I think, is a pretty good job. You got good money and you don't have a fan base that's ready to explode at any given moment. The other name I had written down is John Gruden, and that's just kind of the fun hire. But if I was a fan of a team, I don't think I would want John Gruden to come for 3 years, go 7-5 a couple times, and leave. I think Rhett Lashie could be the coach at Arkansas for 15 years. So had to put him down.
The one thing about because I think SMU is a good job, man. They got money. I agree with you, Rhett.
They're not doing enough to keep him there, I don't think.
I agree.
Can you win a national championship there?
But can you win at Arkansas? And my question about Arkansas, that team, that athletic program is elite in baseball and basketball. Are they split? Heck, they just hired Coach Calipari. Is more booster money going to like Arkansas? Like, I don't know. That would be my only concern. I would almost say that Arkansas and SMU I think Arkansas is a better job, but I think it's way closer than some of these other ones. And so Rhett Lashie might be like, that's just not the job I want to take. Now he's an alumni, right? That's different. But when you're looking at it, that might be one thing and stuff. So that would be interesting to see. But he is due for a bigger time job, in my opinion, than the ACC and them. So let's move on. I'm going to fire a coach. You're going to hire one, and then vice versa. A part of me wanted to fire Dabo Swinney and make you have to hire someone for Clemson. But I'm going to go with one that I don't want to say he's been on the hot seat, but one that I've been saying for a little bit. It's not going to open up an elite job. I also said, is Brian Kelly going to get fired? I'm not going to bring that up. I'm going to ask you about Dave Aranda from Baylor. A couple years ago, they won the Big 12. A couple years ago, they won the Big 12. They were on the top, and they looked better last year. They had all this hype. I don't know if he's going to get fired, but a guy that, like I said, like a couple years ago, you're like, man, Baylor's the program now. He turned it around, and it has not been the same since then. So Dave Aranda gets fired from Baylor. Who are you bringing in?
I think my first thought is Willie Fritz from Houston. And I know that's interconference, but I've watched a couple Houston games this year, and they're really depressing. It's a big stadium, and no one's in the crowd ever. And I put out my top 25 last week, went over it. I do a first 5 out. Houston's at 30. This is a 5-1 or 6-1 football team, and they've got some support. They got to bring in Connor Wegman this year. They got to bring in Tanner Koziel, who was a prized possession at the tight end position out of the portal. They're doing good things. Willie Fritz has a good track record. I think Baylor is a place where you can win. I think Houston is a basketball school.
Yeah,
and
that's
for
true.
Real. Like Arkansas, it's a debate. Houston is a basketball
Houston
school.
Is.
So
they are a basketball school.
They're in the Big 12 to hoop.
I like that hire. Okay, hit me with one. Who you firing?
I got to go to Tallahassee. I got to get Mike Norvell out at Florida State. Find somebody and don't hire Alex Golish. There's your challenge, because I feel like that may be the easy one.
Okay.
But if he would be your top guy, tell me.
I mean, he would be, but I also did have him taking the Arkansas job. So in this scenario, let's say he takes the Arkansas job. The one name that's been on my mind for just a long time that is not currently in college football, but was a college football head coach, and I think could make a comeback soon, is Cliff Kingsbury. And I don't know what his motivation would be to leave the NFL, but Florida State is a dang good job. Yeah. That is a dang good job. So would they take a swing, because he's done great things with Jaden Daniels at Washington? If I'm talking about more of a college head coach, and I'm not trying to hire someone from the NFL, because that is a little bit of a cop-out, right? Like, oh, let's take this coordinator. Let's take this NFL guy, right? At least he has head coaching experience. Right. The 2 coordinators I'd want to take a chance at in college football right now would be Will Stein from Oregon.
Oh yeah.
Think he's due for a job. He's done great things there. And then I'm going to draw a blank on him. Please, Jace, think of who you're going to say. I'm going to lose my mind if I. Oh, Brian Hartline. Brian Hartline, obviously another one that I don't know who or when he gets a job, and it might not be as big as Florida State right off the bat, but he's due for a head coaching job. So I'm really interested to see Cliff Kingsbury make a return. He's been an NFL head coach, didn't work out. He's back as an OC. He's been great in Washington, a little bit of struggles this year because of Jane Daniels injury, but he also had great success when he was at Texas Tech with Baker Mayfield, with Patrick Mahomes and then Baker Mayfield for a little bit, right? Like he has that track record. So maybe a guy that's coming back into the ranks of college football would be a fun one.
I want him to go to the Titans. There you go.
Tennessee?
Yeah.
It's not a bad hire. He might do great things with Cam Ward there.
There you go. Also, one more coach I had to shout out because I don't think he's talked about enough outside of him getting fired. But I do think that if Luke Fickell and Wisconsin make the divorce that they should have, I think that's a hot name because we all know he can coach. I just think he's in over his head at a program where the identity seems to matter more than wins. And when the wins don't come and the identity doesn't come, it's a mess. But I think Fickell could go somewhere, maybe Kentucky. Jobs are going to open everywhere.
The other one that's a hot name, again, we could sit here and talk about this. We might have to do a coaching carousel episode at the end of the year when there's way more jobs.
Oh yeah.
Because that's probably
hire South Carolina's next offensive coordinator.
Heck, we easily could. Another one that's doing great things this year, and again, maybe not necessarily throughout his career, but this year's turning heads is Scott Satterfield. Is it Satterfield from Cincinnati?
Scott Satterfield from.
Who would have thought Cincinnati was 6-1?
Brennan Sorsby, by the way. We got to do quarterback stock soon, but that dude's for real. And I'm not saying like for real, like first round pick, but
that's another one to keep an eye on. And again, will he get a job after having one good year? And we'll see how they finish in the Big 12. But college football is all about what have you done for me lately. Mm-hmm. And they do dip back into the well, right? Like, could Florida go hire Dan Mullen from UNLV?
Yeah,
they could.
I mean, Arkansas, Dan Mullen tweeted, "I have no interest in the Arkansas job. We'll see what happens." There's John Summerall at Tulane. Now, I actually think you can win at Tulane. That's a story for another day. I actually think that and like James Madison and apparently USF, and what used to be Louisiana, though you could actually win at those schools. Yeah. But it's a lot of fun. We could talk about that one all day. Jace, you got anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I don't. I appreciate it, guys. If you haven't already, if you're on audio, make sure you follow the show. Rate us 5 stars wherever you're listening to, Spotify, Apple. If you're on YouTube, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video. We're trying to be more consistent. I know we have busy schedules, but I would count on episodes probably every 2 weeks. If we can get you weekly episodes, we'll try. But every 2 weeks is kind of the goal right now. And the more we can get to you, obviously we'll bring you as much content as we have time to do and stuff. So, but we appreciate all the support, man. It's just fun and it's exciting. I hate that college football is halfway done, but then it's just that much closer to the draft.
It's halfway started. How's that?
There you go. You're a glass half full guy. I'm a glass half empty guy.
Got to be glass half full. On that note, if you want us to hire your next coach, if you want to fire somebody and have us hire them, let us know in the comments. Of course, anything else as well. But thank you guys so much for listening. For Jace Campbell, I'm Max Shostak. We will see you guys next time. Peace.